Hi everyone, welcome to the Movieception Show. My name is Veriba, and it is nice talking to you all again. I know I've been missing for quite some time. I haven't been really posting a lot, and that's just because I've been really busy the last month. A lot of things had happened, nothing too bad, but I've just been really busy. But now that we're getting into the new month, I'm hoping to take a bit more initiative to actually post a bit more videos. This means having to put a little bit more effort into it. There are definitely a couple of movies I do want to review, so definitely keep an eye on that. But aside from all of that, let's get right down into the main topic of this video, and that is the Oscars. Now, let's just say happy Oscar Eve. We're just about, less than 36 hours or so, more or less, until we finally get down to the big award of the season, and that is the Academy Awards. There's definitely been a lot of talk about who's gonna win what, who's gonna dominate. I mean, I already have my own predictions about it, and of course for this video I'm gonna mainly talk about my predictions, and I think I finally locked them down after having watched basically the bulk of the award seasons, from the Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, BAFTA, as well as the SAG. And I think as of right now, I think I have a pretty good idea of who's going to win, although we'll see. I mean, we'll see if there's any big surprises. But yeah, I'm gonna do what I did last year in terms of discussing my picks. I'm gonna pull up my ballot that I'm gonna put on the big screen. I'll explain my reasons for some of the reasons for why I think they're going to win, whether or not it seems like it's basically the front runner, or it seems like there seems to be a close race. I know there's a couple of categories, not too many, but there are definitely at least a couple of categories I do want to, just dive into to kind of break down, like, okay, why I went on this, why I picked this person rather than the other person, or this nominee over the other. We'll talk about more of that in just a second, but that's how I'm gonna be formatting it. I'm actually going to start off with like some of the smaller categories, so that's like the documentary, short, feature, live, all those. I'm gonna go and breeze through those really quickly, and then anything that's just kind of like I feel like I'm really confident about, I'm gonna just breeze through them quickly, give my quick explanation, and then just quickly start jumping into the big awards. The big awards is where I actually do want to go a bit deep into my explanation, and then hopefully that'll be it in terms of locking my predictions for the Oscars. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right down into my final predictions for the Oscars 2024. Alright, so let's start off with Best Live Action Short. So we're gonna kind of breeze through a lot of the first few categories right here. So Best Live Action Short, I went with The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. That's actually the Netflix short directed by Wes Anderson. I feel like at this point it's kind of pretty given that this movie is going to win this award. So I feel like I'm fairly confident that this movie is going to be the one winning Best Live Action Short. So that's all I have to say about that. Best Documentary Short. I went with the ABCs of book banning. I know this is actually one of the categories that seems to kind of be, it could tip between any of the top three right here, or the top two right here. So the ABCs of book banning and The Last Repair Shop. I've also been hearing about the 99Y Poe could be a potential winner right here. And I think a lot of people have put in The Last Repair Shop. Again, I'm gonna say I have not seen these movies, so I'm just kind of breezing through and going with what I've been hearing in terms of experts. But I went with the ABCs of book banning because I just feel like, because of how it is very leaning into the whole political aspect, that there could be a lot of voters who will probably tend to vote on this film. So that's why I went with the ABCs of book banning right here. All right, Best Animated Short. I went with War Is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko. I know the second choice that's most likely has the best chance of winning this category is going to be Letter to a Pig. I know I was kind of, in between those. I went with War Is Over for just this reason, just because it seems to be kind of the common denominator right there that I've been reading from. Again, I have not seen these movies, so I'm just kind of basing upon like expertise and kind of like what seems to kind of be the best or the most ideal winner. So that's where I went with War Is Over right here. All right, best international film. I think it's pretty given who's gonna win this. The Zone of Interest. I mean, The Zone of Interest is nominated for Best Picture, so it would just make no sense for this movie not to win this category. I've been hearing a lot of great things about it. I've actually not seen it, but I do plan on seeing it before the actual Oscars. So hopefully, by the time I do actually see the Oscars, I have a much better idea of what the movie's about. But it's pretty clear who's gonna win. It's gonna be for who's gonna win for best international film. It's gonna be Zone of Interest right here. Had we actually had gotten Godzilla minus one, this could have been a much different, it could have been a much different scenario. Although Society of the Snow has been a pretty big movie as well on the Netflix side. But again, I mean, it's pretty clear who's gonna win. It's gonna be Zone of Interest. So that is definitely like the easiest choice right there. And then best documentary feature, I think it's pretty given. That's going to be 20 Days in Mariupol. I mean, again, it's going to deep into the whole political aspect. I mean, we know what happened was it 2 years ago or last year? What happened in Ukraine. And so again, it seems like a pretty big given that this is going to be the movie that's going to easily win this category just because of the deep message behind it. So yeah, easy choice right here. Best documentary feature is going to probably, for the most part, go to 20 Days in Mariupol. All right, let's get down to the next category, which is best animated feature. So initially I thought this was going to be a tough category, but I think it's pretty given at this point that the movies that could be winning is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. The first movie, Into the Spider-Verse, did win an Oscar for the same category. I think it was about, 2018, 2019? So I would not be surprised if the sequel does. And I mean, even then, the sequel is actually even more beloved than the original. So it seems as though that, as of right now, I think, like, for me personally, I think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has the best chance of winning it because of the huge acclaim it got last year, as well as the fact that, again, it's even more beloved than the first movie. There is actually a slight chance, though, that The Boy and the Heron could be able to clinch the award over Spider-Man, just because that movie is just as well done. Like, I've actually seen The Boy and the Heron. It's a very beautiful movie. It's very highly acclaimed. It's very highly awarded. I believe even before the nominations, not a lot of people would have imagined this movie was going to get nominated just because it is a Studio Ghibli film. But even that being the case, it still made it in. So there's a big reason why this film managed to get a nomination, and I think it has a really high chance of actually, being one of the shocking winners, or one of the big surprises of the night, where instead of Spider-Man Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse winning, is actually going to be The Boy and the Heron. So it's definitely kind of hitting, not too close, but I think that there could be an inch of like shock factor right here that The Boy and the Heron could win. But I think overall, I think the clear-cut winner could be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So that's where I locked in my prediction right there. Best visual effects. I went with Godzilla minus one. I absolutely love this movie. I actually believe I listed the film as one of my top 5 favorite films of 2023, and there's a big reason for that, because I mean, this movie is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's absolutely great. The fact that this movie even managed to get a nomination, because it did suck that it didn't get a Best International Film nomination, because it wasn't even chosen by their film studio. Their film industry. So it does suck that Godzilla minus one didn't get a chance to at least compete in that category, but that was at least redeemed here with the Best Visual Effects. I mean, it's very historic nomination for this film. I don't think there has been any other international movie that has managed to, reach this feat. I could be wrong. I mean, but then again, I mean, for Godzilla minus one, given how much this movie has been so successful, not just in Japan, but here in the United States, like, I even had some of my friends who are not really the most, big movie buffs, and they even took the time to go check out this movie, and they absolutely loved it, which tells you everything about why this movie is so beloved, why it's so well regarded by so many people, whether it be, film buffs like me or just casual movie watchers. And I think that for a category for like best visual effects, I think Godzilla minus one has the strongest chance of winning it. There is a chance, I mean, there's a possibility the creator could clinch the title away from Godzilla Minus One, just because, again, the creator, which is directed by Garrett Edwards, who happens, funny enough, directed the 2014 Godzilla movie. So that's his movie right here. I mean, that movie had some pretty good visual effects too, and there's a pretty good chance that the creator could somehow, again, raise a shock right here, winning this category. I think personally that Godzilla Minus One just seems to be the best contender right here to win it. And I do believe they've been winning a lot of, I think recently just won a couple of Academy Awards in Japan. And not just that, but I think one of the reasons why I think that, Godzilla Minus One or even the creator have a best chance of winning this category is just because I've been reading a lot of interviews leading up to the Oscars, and there's just been so many interviews for Godzilla Minus One. There's been so many interviews for the creator, so it seems as though that they've really gone really deep into the campaign trail for this movie, for these two films to really kind of compete in this category right here. I think just given how much acclaim there has been for Godzilla Minus One, I think that one has the best chance of winning this category. So that's where I put my prediction right here for Godzilla Minus One winning best visual effects. Best sound, I think you can't really I mean, this is kind of like a giveaway. Oppenheimer, I don't think there's really any other film that can really beat out Oppenheimer for this. I mean, the reason why Oppenheimer works the way it does is because of the sound. Like, the sound is what really enhances the whole quality of that movie, really bring in the chills for it as well. Because, I mean, again, we're talking about the Trinity test, we're talking about some the moments that we see, the darkness, the nightmares. I mean, it's just, I mean, let's be honest, best sound, I mean, Oppenheimer is easily going to win this. I mean, if there's anybody who has any chance maybe kind of beating out Oppenheimer, maybe the Zone of Interest, but I think it's pretty clear that Oppenheimer is locked to win this. So and let me just point out that there's going to be a lot of Oppenheimers. I think one of the things I do want to note is that Oppenheimer is basically going to knock it out of the park in terms of the 2024 Oscars. They're the movie to beat, basically. So here's the first category right here in terms of the technicals, where I do believe they have one of the best chances of winning in a category, and this is just one of them. There's gonna be a lot more, so we'll just go dive into more of those in just a second. Best production design. This one has definitely been more of a toughie because I think there is a clear competition between Barbie and Poor Things. I think that Oppenheimer, Killers, Napoleon, I don't think they really have much of a chance, but I think it really does come down to Barbie and Poor Things. This is actually probably one of the more competitive races right here, just because of just everything that's going on around these two films. Poor Things is a really great movie. If you've actually seen it, you'll see kind of how well designed the set pieces are in that movie, whether it be, Bella being in her home, or where she's traveling. There's some really interesting set designs in that film. So definitely one of the reasons why I think that Poor Things has a great chance of winning this. The reason why I edged on with Barbie was just because just the immense world of building Barbie Land, like, it takes a lot of effort and creativity to even build a world like Barbie Land, and to have so much pink. Let's not forget last year the whole headline of how pink, how they were ordering so much pink that there was like an international shortage of the color pink or something like that. Although eventually I believe the set designer herself had kind of clarified that statement. But I think personally for me, when it comes to this category, I want to say Barbie has the edge, just because it like, you can't really reproduce something like Barbie in the way that they did with this movie. I mean, that takes a lot of effort. It's very whimsical, it's really playful. It definitely gets you immersed into the whole world of Barbie Land, just with the landscape itself. And given the fact that there isn't going to be a lot of love for Barbie to begin with, like, I don't think there's going to be too many wins for Barbie going into this Oscars, despite the fact that the movie is basically the highest grossing movie of 2023. I think if there's any category where they have any chance of taking at least an award, it's going to be best production design. Again, it's a very competitive one just because of Poor Things. And I don't think Poor Things is going to be winning too many awards either. So it's definitely going to be the one award between the two that they can maybe take home as like their singular award. Hope I'm going with Barbie on this. I think just because, again, I think that's the best chance that Barbie has of winning just any category, taking any Oscar of the night. It's going to be very disappointing. I know there's a whole situation regarding kind of the Snubs, which I'll talk about a little bit when I get to those categories in a bit, but I think Barbie is has the best chance of winning this category in my opinion. So that's my pick right there. Best score, I mean, again, not really a competition right there. Oppenheimer. Ludwig Göransson has really kind of become a rising star in the last few years. I believe he also recently won last year too. I can't remember for what movie, but he is like basically this generation of Hans Zimmer. I mean, let me just say, Oppenheimer has probably some of the most beautiful scores I've ever heard in a long time. Even the score in the beginning where you have that scene where Oppenheimer is just kind of, dazing and kind of dreaming about the atom and how it's spinning, and you hear that, beautiful piece in the background. I actually play that all the time. It's such a beautiful, beautiful piece to play. I think it's even used as a meme now in some like some of the videos I've been seeing. So it's definitely one of the most known scores I've been hearing in recent times, and I think that the score really works in Oppenheimer. It really enhances the whole situation that's happening in the movie. And I mean, again, for this one, it's just there's no competition. It's gonna be Oppenheimer. So easy pick right there. It's gonna be Oppenheimer or Ludwig Göransson winning the award. Now, had Dune 2 been out, because had Dune 2 had come out in November of last year, the way it was supposed to, instead of like March or basically last week, then maybe we could have actually seen, a head-on-head between Ludwig Göransson and Hans Zimmer, which would have been like absolutely like whoa. But that's not gonna be the case. Dune 2 is not gonna be eligible for this Oscars, of course, because they just released a movie like last week. But yeah, because Dune 2 is not here, clear easy win for Oppenheimer. So there we have it. Best song. Yeah, so this is basically gonna be a giveaway to Barbie without a doubt. They're gonna win without a doubt, whether it be What Was I Made For or I'm Just Ken. I think between the two, What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish is the one that's most likely to win. Although we did kind of have that surprise, what was it, the Critics' Choice Awards, when I'm Just Ken had won, and you have like the whole meme of Ryan Gosling just having that confused look, like how the hell did this song even win, considering like what the message is. But even aside from that whole hubbub with the Critics' Choice and how I'm Just Ken won over What Was I Made For, I think it's pretty clear that the song that's going to win is going to be What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish. If she does win, this is going to be her second win, or second Oscar win, after, what was it, No Time to Die. So, I mean, Billie Eilish is a very talented singer, and it seems as though that she's really making a mark, and not just, with her albums, but in movies as well. So here we have it. I do think that that's the best choice to win. I mean, the song is really deep. It's really powerful. It's a really great message. I think there is really there's a slight chance I'm Just Ken could get it. Just a slight chance, but I think it's gonna be What Was I Made For. Although I cannot wait to see Ryan Gosling sing at the Oscars tomorrow. So that's gonna be at least the one, silver lining to all this. So, or at least the one great thing about this whole nomination, because Ryan Gosling's going to actually sing. So, but yeah, pretty given that it's gonna be What Was I Made For. But yeah. All right, best makeup and hairstyling. So I went with Maestro for this, which is like, I know, like for me, I'm not the biggest fan of Maestro, but I will say that there is a lot of great makeup, there's a lot of great hairstyling. So I think if there's any chance of Maestro winning any award this year, because I feel like that's like the most Oscar-beating movie of this season, I think this is going to be their best shot at winning or taking home at least any award of the night. So at least they're not going to go single-handed. But I will say there is a little bit of a chance that Poor Things could somehow, mark a surprise and actually win over Maestro, because again, that movie also has some pretty good, styling and makeup and all that sort of stuff. But I think given the efforts from Maestro, how there was a bit more technique involved and not just showing Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan and their characters when they're young, but in their older selves, right? I think that's what really kind of edges them to win this category. So I think at this point, it's pretty clear cut that Maestro is going to win this category. Best film editing. I mean, again, not even really too much of a question. Oppenheimer. I think one of the things I've actually noticed is that there is kind of a correlation between the best film editing and best picture. Tend to be that, whoever does end up winning best film editing ends up winning best picture. That's not always the case. It's just a statistic. But I mean, it's pretty clear cut that here with Oppenheimer, given just the efforts in creating such a masterpiece like that and trying to glue together just all the shots and the scenes that they need to kind of create this story that, even though it's non-linear, it still makes sense in terms of the progression of the story and how they're going from point A to point B. And I think in a film like this, it was really critical that the editing is spot on. So, and I feel like with Oppenheimer, like the whole style really, really works. And it's why it's such a masterpiece the way that it is. So I think in this one, it's pretty clear cut that Oppenheimer is going to win best film editing. I think if there's anybody who has any edge, maybe Anatomy of a Fall or Killers of the Flower Moon, but I think it's a clear win that Oppenheimer is going to take this home. Best costume design. I think Barbie is. I think this is gonna be. I will say this. For me, I think Barbie is the one that is most likely to win this category, just because of how vast so much of their costume is. Like, they weren't just creating costumes for just 4 or 5 people. They were creating costumes for over 200 people on set, because they had so many Barbies, they had so many Kens on set, that it definitely required a lot of creativity to build this world, and the costume is very essential for this movie because we are seeing kind of the personalities of the different Barbies. So I think this is where Barbie really has best chance of winning this category, just because of the great efforts that they had to go through to kind of figure out and personalize a lot of the characters that they have, even some of the minor ones, right? To kind of help create this world and show kind of the Barbie, the Kens of all of it, and how their personality shows off just by their outfits and their costumes. So I think Barbie, again, this is maybe one of their better shots at winning a category. Again, I think it's pretty clear cut they're going to win best song for sure. Best production design, questionable. Best costume design, I think that's their second best chance of taking home award. So I think that's where it's going to be like that for this category for best costume design. I think, again, the runner-up, I think, is going to be Poor Things. So if there's anyone who has a chance of maybe stealing that award away from Barbie, it's probably going to be Poor Things. So another, clash between Barbie and Poor Things. But yeah, I'm going to stick with Barbie on this one. I think this is where I'm more confident of them winning this category over who I think as a runner-up has a better chance of it. So that's it right there for best costume design right there. I think it's gonna be Barbie. All right, best adapted screenplay. So this is gonna be a very interesting one because the WGAs have actually not taken place, probably because of the fact that the writer's strike had probably pushed off a lot of things about a month or so after. So this is going to be a rare case where we won't be able to predict the screenplay winners based upon the WGA, because we don't even have the WGAs done. That's not even until like April. But I'm going to go with what kind of seems to be the trend going into the Oscars. Now, typically speaking, when it comes to screenplay, the way I usually strategize is that whoever ends up winning, one of the screenplay awards ends up winning best picture. Again, that's the statistics, that's the correlation of it. That's not to say that happens all the time though. And this is probably going to be the one year where I think this is going to be the exception, just because I think we have a really packed best adapted screenplay nomination right here. You have Barbie, you have Poor Things, you have Zone of Interest, Oppenheimer, American Fiction. I think given though that American Fiction has been getting a bit more of, of this love now that it's actually been screened in a lot of theaters. Like it finally just showed up at my theater about a month or so ago, and I was just like happy to finally see it, and just how great the story itself is. Just a guy named Monk who is just trying to understand kind of this family dilemma that he has, um and the things that he's to go through, right? And how he's gonna try and finance, you know, everything that's around him, and having to take this fake persona as a writer and, you know, pretend to be something else like he's not. It's a very interesting story. I absolutely loved it. And I think that because a little bit of that charm, a little of that pizzazz, that I think this is a case where I think American Fiction is very likely to win this category. It's gonna be a tough race without a doubt. I think this is one where it's just too close to call at the moment, and even in Golden Derby you happen to say the same. I think this is definitely the one category where it's too close to call. It's definitely gonna be a tough competition between American Fiction and Oppenheimer. I think initially I had put Oppenheimer in the lead, but I think having now seen American Fiction, that American Fiction might actually have the edge here, just because of the fact that it's a really great story. It's a really great movie. And I would not be surprised if this is a case where if a lot of Academy voters have seen the movie, or because of the fact that there's going to be this recency in terms of watching this movie, because now this is now a bit more accessible to a lot more people now that that's in theaters, that there's a good chance American Fiction might actually benefit from this later release, that maybe a lot of people will actually remember American Fiction screenplay and maybe choose this. So this is where I'm going to put American Fiction as the winner. Again, this is a case where we don't have the WGAs to kind of determine this, so very rare situation right there. But yeah, I'm gonna be sticking with American Fiction as the possible winner right here. And a possible shock too, because I'm not surprised if a lot of people would put Oppenheimer. I mean, I would not, you know, argue with them that Oppenheimer has a good chance of winning. But given the fact that Oppenheimer is going to be winning a lot of awards to begin with for the night, that this is probably going to be the one where, even though they have a good chance of winning, this could be a bit of a surprise for the night. So that's just what I'm going to say right there. Best Original Screenplay, I think it's pretty given Anatomy of a Fall. They've kind of been sweeping it for the most part, at least in the Golden Globes and I think critics. They've won this category in particular. I know there was a lot of whole, you know, discussion about whether or not Barbie should have been Best Original Screenplay or Adapted. Regardless, I think Anatomy of the Fall would have won either way, so they were always going to win this. One of the reasons why they are nominated for Best Picture this year. So yeah, pretty clear cut. Anatomy of the Fall is going to be winning Best Original Screenplay. Best cinematography. So again, this is where Oppenheimer is really going to succeed in the technical areas, because it is a film that is really deep into the technical aspects of visuals, of really showcasing the story and the characters and what they're going through, and showing the details of it all. And I was grateful enough to see this movie in IMAX. Like, this is one of the rare times where I actually chipped in to actually pay to go see this movie in IMAX, even though I have a Regal subscription. I was just like, no, I need to see this in like real IMAX. So I actually did go and watch this movie in IMAX, and it was just absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, I was literally over the moon just seeing kind of the beauty of the visuals that we saw from this movie. Again, it's just, there is really no competition. The film that had the best visual, the best scenery, that really complemented everything around in the background, and really showcasing all the details that we need to see, and seeing how the movie itself progresses. Best cinematography has to be going to Oppenheimer. I don't think there's really too much of a competition right here. Again, if there's anybody who has a slight, like an inch of a possibility of winning, it could be Killers of the Flower Moon, but it's clearly it's the one that this is clearly easy win for Oppenheimer. So right there. And again, I can't remember who did the cinematography. I know it's not Roger Deakins, but yeah, again, it's clear cut that's gonna be Oppenheimer. So easy pick right there. All right, let's get right down into the acting category. So these are gonna be, so now we're really getting down into the big awards. So I'm gonna be talking a bit more deep into some of the explanation for this. So best supporting actor, I mean, it's pretty clear cut it's gonna be Robert Downey Jr. He's basically sweeped the whole award season. He's won the Golden Globe, he's won the Critics' Choice, he's won the SAG, he's won the BAFTA. I don't think there's really any other way to kind of determine this than Robert Downey Jr. is going to win this award, which is great. I mean, it's just amazing to see Robert Downey Jr. finally being recognized. I think this is the best movie for him to win it. I know when I saw it last year that I had an inkling that he was going to get a nomination for sure in the best supporting actor category. I was still kind of waiting off on the competition. Of course, when I started talking about the award season, I was talking about how there could be a bit more of this clash between Robert Downey Jr. and Ryan Gosling, but it seemed pretty clear cut early on that there wasn't going to be too much of a love for Ryan Gosling here. So yeah, I think it's again, and once that was kind of pretty much determined, I was like, yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is going to be winning this award. And again, this comes at a really kind of a pretty, interesting time, just because Robert Downey Jr. has been nominated so many times before. He's been nominated for Chaplin. I can't remember if he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Tropic Thunder. I think he did. He lost to Heath Ledger that year, who of course had passed away by that point. But this is basically it. This is an award where he's gonna win it. I think he does deserve it. And this is coming at a time where this is like post MCU too. Like, we've been seeing a lot where a lot of the actors who were in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for such a long time, having now exited, and they haven't really seen much great success then. Especially Robert Downey Jr. I think his first movie after Endgame was Doolittle, and that movie was just not great. That movie was just a disaster. I can't even imagine how it would take for him to somehow revamp his whole career post MCU. And I think that this was the best role for him, and for him to be nominated here and actually eventually become the Oscar winner. That's not to say that I'm awarding him that he's officially the winner, but I think that's pretty clear cut that he's going to win this award. Again, if there was any competition, it would have been Ryan Gosling. I mean, there's a little slight chance for Sterling K. Brown, just because, again, as I mentioned before, American Fiction has now kind of been a bit more accessible to a lot of people. So a lot of people who have now just watched it recently will remember that movie more so than some of the other films that released a bit long ago. But I think it's pretty clear cut. Robert Downey Jr. is going to win. He's been sweeping the whole award season. I mean, this is an award for him to lose. So, but yeah, it's clear cut. It's going to be Robert Downey Jr. And I cannot wait to hear his speech. So, yep. Robert Downey Jr. is locked for Best Supporting Actor. Best Supporting Actress. Again, this is pretty clear cut. It's gonna be Divine Joy Randolph. I was lucky enough to actually see this movie quite a long ago. I think I was able to see it back in November of last year. I literally just went into the holdovers just because I've been hearing so much buzz about it. I didn't even know what the story was about. I didn't even watch a trailer for it. At least I didn't pay attention to the trailer that much to even remember much of it. But I have to say, this was definitely the movie that surprised me last year, just because of the fact that I had such little knowledge about what the movie was about. And just to see that film and just the heartwarming aspects about this relationship between this professor and his student, and then someone like Divine Day Joy's character, who is basically the cafeteria lady who cooks the food for the boys, and seeing the deep meaning and seeing kind of this tragedy that this character is going through because of the fact that her own son had died in the war. I mean, it's just like just to see her character having to go through so much of that emotion, it really hit me so deep. Her performance was absolutely phenomenal. Like, I mean, she's definitely one of the highlights of this film. And I mean, I don't think there's anyone else who's more deserving of this award than Divine Joy Randolph. Just like Robert Downey Jr., she's been sweeping the award season. I think she's definitely won the Golden Globe. She's won the Critics' Choice. I can't remember if she's won the BAFTAs, but she has won the SAG. So clear cut, easy. The clear winner is probably going to be Divine Joy Randolph. Not too much where I can say like anybody else has any inch of winning. I think again, this is probably the one where it's like you're almost at a near 100%, certainty that's going to be Divine Joy Randolph. And I mean, again, she deserves it. She's absolutely phenomenal in this role, which is really funny because actually I think the first time I've seen her act was it was only Murders in the Building, and she played that cop. So just to see her from playing that cop, or not the cop, the detective, to playing this lady, to playing this really emotionally raw character and the holdovers, I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. Love this performance, and I again cannot wait to see her speech and whatnot. So, Best Actor. Let's just say again, this is really interesting. I will say this. This is very interesting because early on, I knew this was going to be a really tough competition between Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti. Again, once I watched the holdovers, I knew for a fact that Paul Giamatti was going to be perhaps Cillian Murphy's biggest competition going into the award season. And I know a lot of people were saying Bradley Cooper, and I was like, okay, well, I have to see the movie first to even make that distinction. And I was like, yeah. Once I saw Maestro, I was like, no, he has no chance. I knew for a fact, though, this was going to be a tight race between Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti. That was the case early on in the season, the award season, where, you know, both of them won the Golden Globes. The Critics' Choice, Paul Giamatti had won. The BAFTAs, Cillian had won. And then the SAG, Cillian had won. I think once Cillian won the SAG Awards, that's when I was like, okay, I think I'm pretty confident at this point that Cillian Murphy is going to win Best Actor over Paul Giamatti. And that's not to say that, you know, there couldn't be any surprises. There still could be a last minute surprise, but given that fact that the SAG Awards is usually the best indicator of determining who is going to win the acting category, that's not to say that happens all the time, but it's definitely the best indicator of that. I think that Cillian Murphy is going to win this award, and not even just to say that, right? I mean, aside from the SAGs, when I saw Oppenheimer, and once I saw Cillian Murphy's performance as J. Robert Oppenheimer, I have to say, I knew right away that, not only is Cillian Murphy going to get a Best Actor nomination, but he is the front runner to win this category. I knew right away, having seen that movie, that he was a front runner for it. So, it looks as though that my intuition might be correct here. And if he does win, at least at least his interviews did not go in vain, because let's be honest, he definitely, I mean, he's excited to win this award, but he is dreading those interviews. He could care less about them. I've watched so many so far where he's just kind of like, whatever. And I feel that. I feel that energy from Cillian Murphy, and that's why he's one of the most memeable person right now on the internet sphere. I absolutely love it. But just one more, or is it, well, 2 more days, today and tomorrow, and that's it for him. He can be done with those interviews for a very long time, but he definitely deserves. I cannot wait to see him possibly win this award. Again, if Paul Giamatti wins, I would not be, upset about it. I think he is just as equally deserving of this award as Cillian Murphy, because I think, again, his performance in Holdover was absolutely phenomenal. I just think that, just from my intuition and from what I can tell out of this, that Cillian Murphy has the best chance of winning. I think I'm a pretty good 90% that Cillian Murphy's gonna win. So that's my pick for Best Actor right here. Best Actress. So I will say, out of all the categories that we have for the Oscars, probably the closest race that we have, without a doubt, is Best Actress. Now, for me, I knew for a fact that there was going to be a little bit of this competition between Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone. And I think early on, they both had won a Golden Globe. I think Lily Gladstone got the drama for the Golden Globes, and then I think Emma got the comedy / musical. Emma won the Critics' Choice. Emma won the BAFTAs. But then what really changed the whole tide was the fact that Lily Gladstone had won the SAG. The fact that she ended up winning the SAG, which is usually the best indicator for who's going to win the acting categories at the Oscars, is when everyone started to really, it started to become this, okay, instead of like having this, okay, this is thing that looks like so Emma Stone's going to win, now it seems as though that Lily Gladstone is probably going to win. And it seems as though that because of that, even I have to agree, I think that given the SAG Awards, I think Lily Gladstone's going to win. Now, there is definitely a little bit of discussion about whether or not Lily Gladstone should have been nominated as a Best Actress or as a Best Supporting Actress, just because of how much of her character and the screen time and her purpose in that movie. I mean, personally, for me, I think Emma Stone would have been my choice to win Best Actress, just because, like, you have this really extraordinary, very unprecedented kind of character and acting style that you have to go through to kind of break apart this character. I feel like it's really unique. It's very unusual, and I think that Emma Stone had to go through a lot of lengths to just figure out and personalize her character of Bella Baxter, who, you know, even though she's in the body of a grown woman, her intelligence is that of a, you know, a fetus, right? And so definitely, like, that's where I was just kind of like, okay, Emma Stone has definitely done something that's so unique, so original, never done before. But I also can see why Lily Gladstone has a really good chance of winning it as well. There's a huge push for her to win. And now having seen the SAG, I think that at this point, the person who has the best chance of winning is Lily Gladstone. I cannot wait to see Emma Stone. Like, I mean, I know Emma Stone would love for her to win it. We saw her reaction to the SAG Awards as well, and how just the support that there was for that. So I'm not going to be upset for either one. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the little elf on the room, and that is the fact that Margot Robbie was not nominated for this category. And I'm going to say this, because I know I haven't really spoken about this. I will say this, that I think going into, when I was making my predictions for the Oscar nominations, I had a pretty good feeling that Margot Robbie was not going to get a nomination. I had a pretty good feeling about that. Just because I think out of all the nominees, I think all the nominees that we have here had a much more compelling performance than Margot Robbie. That's not to say that Margot Robbie's performance in Barbie isn't any good. It is fun. It is great. It is entertaining. I think that, but when you're comparing it to some of the performances that we see here, and given that there's only 5 spots, I had a feeling that Margot Robbie was probably not going to make it in there. Personally, for me, I think the person who's going to get the 5th spot would have actually been Greta Lee from Past Lives. So that was what I initially thought was going to be the case, and unfortunately it seems as though there wasn't much love for Past Lives, although they did get a nomination for Best Picture, so at least that's there. But it ended up being that Annette Bening somehow managed to get that 5th and final spot. But yeah, I think that Margot Robbie really didn't have much of a strong chance of getting into the Best Actress category, just because of the fact that it's already a very competitive race to begin with. And I think that when you look at a performance, again, not to devalue it in any way to say that, you know, it was bad or anything like that. I just think that when you're comparing to performances here, the performers here who have, you know, really shown their craft in a much outstanding way, that I had a feeling that Margot Robbie was going to be the one who was going to get cut loose from a nomination here. So I'm gonna say, so I'm not too outraged about her snub. I mean, I don't think that was really a snub in my opinion, just because, again, I had a feeling that she wasn't gonna get it to begin with. I think out of all of them, she probably would have been, if she had been nominated, she would have been a 5 right here. Because again, the race was gonna be clearly between Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone. So yeah, I think it made a lot more sense why, you know, she wasn't really going to win this whole category right here. But yeah, I just wanted to put that side note right there. But yeah, to finalize, I think Lily Gladstone's gonna win Best Actress. It's a really close race though. There's still a good chance that Emma Stone could still somehow win despite what happened at the SAG, because that's not to say the SAG is, you know, an automatic, you know, how every time that, you know, the SAG determines a winner, that's automatically going to be the case. They're just the best indicator for it, because of correlation, just from the statistics. They have the best, they have the best ability to determine the winners of the night, of the Oscar night. And I think that in a case like this, Lily Gladstone is going to win. So, but again, it's still a really tight race. Emma Stone could still get her 2nd Oscar nomination over Lily Gladstone. It's a really tight race right here, but again, I think Lily Gladstone is very likely going to win based upon what we've seen so far in the award season. Best Director. I mean, it's a pretty easy giveaway. It's going to be Christopher Nolan, and I'm so happy. I cannot wait to see this. I cannot even tell you how long I've been waiting for this moment to see the one and only Christopher Nolan finally win Best Director. If you're not aware of anything about my, you know, personal preferences when it comes to movies and my favorites, I have 2 favorite directors that I really regard so highly, and they are Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve. Christopher Nolan has really been someone who I would say has really opened the doors for me to understand cinema and understand storytelling and the complexities of it and the meaning behind it. And of course that started when I first saw Inception all the way back, was it 2010? And ever since then, like, any movie that I've seen of his, like, I've absolutely loved. Although I would say I was not a big fan of Tenet though, so kind of an outlier right there. But Oppenheimer, I mean, without a doubt, like, it makes sense why this is his greatest masterpiece. Like, he really put so much effort into kind of figuring out the puzzle pieces to kind of break apart Oppenheimer's story and get the main message through, such as, you know, showing off who Oppenheimer is, the dilemma that he's dealing with, and showing kind of the historical aspects of it with the whole, you know, hearing and him creating the atomic bombs, and then what happens in the past and the present. And he is someone who's really, you know, deep into doing non-linear structure storytelling. That's just typically how he likes to do his movies, which I have no issues with. He's done that with Dunkirk, he's done that with Tenet, of course. And we've now seen this with Oppenheimer. I think that Oppenheimer was definitely the most effective of using that style to his advantage to kind of really exude this story, this really powerful story of an historical figure like J. Robert Oppenheimer. And I have to say, like, this is a film that is really his greatest masterpiece, without a doubt. Now, I do have a, you know, my own, you know, deep love for Inception for the rest of my life. Like, I mean, that's a movie that will still always be in my heart. But I mean, even I can't argue that Oppenheimer is truly his greatest movie ever. And it's great to see him finally, possibly, I'm gonna say possibly because who knows, things could still happen, you know, shocks can happen, but the fact that he has a really good chance of winning Best Director and finally getting it after, you know, being a part of the industry for over 2 decades. I mean, I cannot wait to see this moment. This is something that I've been wanting to cherish for a long time. And again, he really deserves it. This is truly his greatest work. Again, he is a genius. He is a filmmaking genius for a reason. And again, I cannot wait to see how it all turns out. Now, in terms of the whole Best Director category, there was the other snob of Greta Gerwig. I will say I do agree with the whole outrage with that one. She should have been nominated for Best Director, although I don't think she would have won the category. I think, again, it was pretty clear cut that Christopher Nolan was going to win this category. If you had to actually ask me, like, if there's anybody who, you know, you could have removed from this category that, you know, to get in Greta Gerwig, I actually would have just removed Martin Scorsese. Like, I know that's a really controversial thing to say, but honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, it's a really good movie. I do think that there are some issues here and there in terms of some parts of the story structure and some of the details of it. Such as just the way they really do portray Molly Burkhart's character and her screen time, even though they at least already had expanded it from the book, which is at least a really good direction in trying to kind of give a bit more representation for Native Americans. But I do think that there's still areas with Killers of the Flower Moon where I was just kind of like, it could have been improved. Like, it's still a very long movie. 3 hours, what was it, 3 hours and 30 minutes. It's a very long movie. A lot of it didn't really, I think there was maybe about a good 45 minutes this movie didn't really need. And it did take a bit more time to kind of just get the groove of the story. And I think that at least with Greta Gerwig, she really did accomplish something that I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, but it's Barbie. But the way that Greta Gerwig was able to get an IP like Barbie and try to create its story and try to try to illustrate her version of Barbie onto the big screen, it's not an easy feat. It's not an easy thing whatsoever. And I think she really had a lot of like, it is a very challenging task to somehow portray a character like Barbie on the big screen that, you know, it would be very satisfying in any way. And I think that Greta Gerwig did a really great job of somehow really unlocking a lot of those aspects, making it so that it does have a deep message while also still being fun, right? Like, we still have the Barbie world, we have the still Barbie land, the Barbie character, and we know how we feel like when it comes to playing the toys. So again, I feel like in a case like this, Greta Gerwig should have got a nomination for it. I think she should have been in the final 5 right here, and I do agree with the outrage right there. Again, I don't agree with the outrage with Margot Robbie, but I do agree with the outrage with Greta Gerwig. She should have at least gotten a nomination for Best Director, even though the fact that she wasn't going to win. The fact that she could have been nominated would have been a huge thing. I think Barbie has kind of been overlooked a little bit here in terms of award season, without a doubt. But But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that. Like, because I haven't really commented about it myself, but I do agree that Greta Gerwig should have been in this category. And if there's anybody who we could have easily removed, I feel like it would have been Martin Scorsese. And that's a lot to say because Martin Scorsese is a very well celebrated director. I mean, for me personally, one of his movies is one of my one of my top fives. And there are a lot of great films that he has made in the past that I absolutely love. I would watch them so many times. I just felt like maybe not Killers of the Flower Moon, at least not in my opinion, but again, a lot of people can argue me on that. So, but yeah, I think, but just to end off the note with Best Director, I think it's pretty clear cut that the winner is going to be Christopher Nolan. It would be a major shock if he didn't win. We'll see. Hopefully I won't have a heart attack, but yeah, I think I cannot wait to see him potentially win this award. It's a long time waiting for me. I mean, I know the long time waiting for him, but this, like, he truly deserves it. I think this is one where it's very clear cut that he has the best chance of winning finally. So, but yeah, there you have it. Christopher Nolan for Best Director. And then finally, the Best Picture winner, I think it's pretty given. It's very likely going to be Oppenheimer. For a lot of reasons. I mean, for a film like Oppenheimer and the fact that it's going to win a lot of awards in the technical categories as well as some of the acting categories and a lot of the awards in the big six categories, I think that it's pretty clear cut that for a movie to have such a mix of awards won, that it just seems kind of confusing for Oppenheimer not to win this category or not to win Best Picture. As I said before, this is absolutely such a masterpiece. I've personally seen it twice myself. The first time in IMAX, second time in a regular theater. And each time I watch it, it's just like you really get the chills of what's really happening in this movie and seeing the perspective of Robert J. Oppenheimer. Okay, I've been saying his name wrong, but basically Oppenheimer, seeing the perspective of Oppenheimer and the physicist and what he had to deal with, both with the security hearing, and him making atomic bomb and his life post after that. It's just kind of like, wow, like this is a really deep story that really shows kind of the horrors of it all. And again, just that ending alone, like, it just brings me chills. It's so horrifying. It's just absolutely such a incredible film, a cinematic movie to watch in terms of just showing who Oppenheimer is and his legacy, and doing so in a way that it is very unique. It's very different. It's not, again, even though it does tend to kind of be distinct, regarded as a biopic, because again, it is based on a historical figure. The way that Nolan was able to somehow craft this, trying to put together this movie, whether it be the storytelling, the structure, the visuals, the performances. I mean, there is literally, like, I would have to really kind of nitpick just to find any errors of this movie. Like maybe like the pacing and whatnot, but that's like literally nitpicking. Like, you really have to nitpick to see kind of any problems with this movie to kind of be like, but otherwise, this is it's literally a masterpiece. This is Nolan's masterpiece. I mean, this is totally his magnum opus, and I mean, again, it makes so much sense why this movie is one of the clearest films to win this category. Now, that is not to say that I'm saying it's definitely going to win it. There's still a possibility of a huge surprise. I think there's even a chance I've been hearing a little bit about American Fiction, so who knows? Again, I think that if American Fiction does end up winning, it could be a lot because of the fact that it is now far more accessible, that there's a recency behind it. But again, American Fiction is probably gonna win maybe 1 or 2 awards max, whereas Oppenheimer is gonna be winning a good. Where I think that Oppenheimer is gonna win a good chunk of the technicals, as well as the best supporting actor and best actor categories. So. Yeah, and as well as best director. So you can't really, again, it's just, the math doesn't make sense if Oppenheimer doesn't win. But yeah, I think it's pretty clear that Oppenheimer is a favorite to win Best Picture. Again, anything could happen, but yeah, I think that basically sums up my predictions right here. But yeah, these are all my predictions for the Oscars tomorrow. And as I'm saying, like the movie to beat is going to be Oppenheimer, without a doubt. Again, it is a film that I put up as my favorite movie of the year, without a doubt, last year. And there's a good reason behind it. I already kind of explained a lot of it throughout the video. But yeah, Oppenheimer just seems to be, it's going to be dominating the awards tomorrow night. But again, who knows? We might see a couple surprises. I already broke down a couple of areas where there is a very close, tight race, like Best Actress, Best Production Design, and heck, Best Adapted Screenplay. But yeah, I'm gonna be looking forward to seeing the Oscars tomorrow night. I know I'm actually gonna be having kind of a small gathering with my buddies to watch the Oscars. Just a quick reminder, the Oscars are actually not gonna be starting at 8 p.m. Eastern time. It's actually gonna be starting 7 p.m. Eastern time because of the fact that tomorrow is going to be daylight saving, so they kind of had to push it up. So yeah, I cannot wait to see who the winners are going to be. But that is it. This is my locked prediction right here, who I think is going to win some of the categories tomorrow night. It's gonna be a very interesting one. Cannot wait to see it. I will say, for one thing, that had Dune 2 came out the way that it was supposed to have been released last year instead of last week, I know I just mentioned this before, had Dune 2 been out, this competition could have been a bit more, could have been an actually bigger race. It would have been a very big one to watch. It could have been a big race between Dune and Oppenheimer, but that's not going to be the case. So, because I think Dune's now going to be, because of course Dune's now going to be eligible for next year's Oscar. So, had Dune been out in time for this Oscar, then maybe it would have been far more interesting and juicy Oscars. But I think at this point, it's pretty clear cut that Oppenheimer is going to be taking home a lot of the big awards, and particularly Best Picture. But yeah, that's all I have to say about my prediction right here. Let me know your thoughts are, having now seen my predictions for tomorrow's Oscars. What do you think about it? What are your predictions, most of all? Especially in the big 6 categories, like Best Picture, Best Director, the acting categories, adapted, cinematography. Who do you think is gonna win? Are there some categories where you absolutely disagree with me, even though I feel like I'm almost absolutely certain that they're going to win? Maybe you have some different thoughts about it. Do you still want to talk about some of the snubs that have happened, or some movies or categories or nominees that should have been nominees for some of these categories that you think were a big miss by the Oscars? And what do you think are going to be some potential surprises, shocks? What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Do you have any predictions about the actual ceremony itself, that you feel like you anticipate is going to happen, or just about any other predictions that you have, whether it be the actual categories themselves right here or the show itself? Let me know your comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe.